Bachman's Basement is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show.
They say hell is a cold place. Out here on Little Tall Island, the power is out. The snow is piling up, and someone is knocking at the door. You're safely tucked away in the cellar, but out there, the storm's just beginning. Give him what he wants and he'll go away. We're settled in for the night. This is Bachman's Basement, and today we're bracing for the storm of the century. I'm your host, Chris Clawson, and I'm here with my co-host, Chris Patton. Before we break out the snow shovels and begin digging out the mysteries of this week's episode, how's your week been, Chris? What have you been watching? What have you been playing? What have you been listening to?
Oh man, the week's been pretty good so far. We'll see. We record on Tuesday, so it has a lot of time to turn around and become terrible. But so far, so good, brother. As far as what I've been listening to, I've been listening to the new Franz Ferdinand album. They released kind of like a making of, which has been pretty fun to watch. And it's a lot different than like what I remember that band being like, but I've really been enjoying that.
I didn't know they were still together. I saw them like 20 plus years ago. And that was one of those bands, Death Cab for Cutie, Franz Ferdinand. It was a cool combo. I had to go see that. So I didn't even know. I'm going to have to definitely check that out. It's
cool, man. It's definitely got more of an electronic vibe to it than some of their older stuff. They've always had like a little bit of that element to it, but they posted, if you go to their YouTube page, they have the making of, which is like a short 30-minute kind of thing that they put together, but they've also posted the album up there too. It came out on the 10th, so last Saturday, I believe. But yeah, it's worth checking out, man. I've dug it so far. As far as things that have just recently came out, and for some older stuff, I went back and I watched the Love Witch. Have you ever seen the Love Witch?
I haven't. I haven't even heard of it.
It is a kind of it's a movie about it's exactly what it says, but it's a movie about a witch that's trying to get people to fall in love with her through these different spells, and every time she puts one of these spells out there, the results are they're terrible. They don't end up working in the way that she wants. The movie came out in 2016, very much like a B horror. There's some surprisingly good acting to it. It was kind of loved by critics because it plays like some really cool playful tribute to 1960s horror and a bunch of like Technicolor films. So it's got a very unique role to it. But you guys would probably, you and the wife would probably dig it. I recommend it. It's a fun watch.
Cool. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that one out.
Then as far as what I've been playing, I finished up Fable 2, which will be coming in the near future as a follow-up to the Fable 1 for the Patton Report. This coming week, the Patton Report is just me complaining about 12 games that ruined my childhood. So it'll be a list of 12 terrible games that I'm going to run down. Everybody can check that out coming very soon. But yeah, that's all I've been up to, man. What about you? What have you been watching? What have you been playing? How's the family? How's the week going?
Things have been well as usual. I guess, just started off, we did our Dagger Heart thing last night. That went very well. Kind of just moving right along. Had some new insights into the greater story we made a new ally towards the end of our session last night after a battle with his magical manifestation, and then right at the end of our session we kind of made a new ally and learned that this other character that we're doing a quest for is, although they have the same goal in mind of what we want to accomplish, they have a very different vision of how to accomplish that. And so definitely they're kind of on the opposite side of what we want to do. So we need to kind of be wary of what we're doing going forward.
Sounds like they might be evil.
Evil. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, that was fun. Then last night after that, I found a copy and watched Die My Love, that Jennifer Lawrence flick.
Yeah, we talked about that on the last episode. That was my bring to the table last week. What did you think about it?
I thought it was good, actually. It's a very thought-provoking movie. Like, there's a lot of imagery in that film that's very thought-provoking. So I enjoyed the Jennifer Lawrence's performance. And honestly, I actually really liked Robert Pattinson's performance as well. It's very sort of a departure from anything I've seen him do as well.
Yeah, they don't give him as much to work with in it, but the little parts that they do give him, he holds his own with Jennifer Lawrence's just, masterful performance. The movie's just such a weird thing, man. It's like such a slow burn. Like right after I finished watching it, I was like, did I like that? Did I love that? Did I hate that? It was kind of weird. And then, like I said, when we talked about it last week, it stuck with me. Like, I find myself thinking about it quite often, which means I liked it more than I thought I did initially.
I like the way that the opening of the film is also the closing of the film as well. So like that little, what do you call it? Foreshadowing, I guess, of what's to come, and you don't really understand why you're seeing that, but then it makes sense by the end. So
I also one of my favorite things that happens in that movie, this will be small, it's not really spoilerly, but when Robert Pattinson's character is listening to Eric Clapton and she's like, I hate this.
I hate guitar music. I was like, oh man, shots fired. That
I was like, slow hand kind of brings out that rage in me too. I feel you.
I was on Pattinson's side for that conversation where she's like, I hate guitar music, and he's like, who hates guitar music?
I don't know about, I don't hate, as a guitar player, obviously I don't hate guitar music, but I do feel with her, like Eric Clapton. I'm not the world's biggest fan. I feel like whenever Clapton comes out, and I'm like the dude when he hears the Eagles, he's like, I just don't want to hear the Eagles, man.
Right.
But that was great. And then there's another scene where there's a few scenes where Jennifer Lawrence is just absolutely like wild in that movie and
unhinged. I didn't know,
unsettling.
I didn't know what to expect, which was refreshing and also terrifying at moments in that film without saying anything at all about it. Just like there are moments where like you're like, this could go really bad one way, and then that's not what happens, and then you're like, oh, it could go really bad the other way now. But,
she makes you wonder the whole time. Is like, when is she going to stop and start killing people around her? And I won't say anything more because it's worth the watch. Like I said, it was one that set with me. And so I kind of didn't want to go too much into it because you said you wanted to watch it last week, so I didn't. I didn't get into all the details.
I got it in before we obviously recording this, so definitely a good recommendation. And being it's so new, let's let people discover that one. And then I guess for what I'm playing, I'm still playing Avatar. I sat down and played a little bit today, and I got past that point that I was stuck at the last time we talked about it. So I figured out what I need to do was just tackle one side of the compound and then get outside the compound, go around to the other side, and then that worked out. So
yeah, we also got to play some Marvel Rivals together. Hadn't done that in a while.
Right, that was super fun playing.
Your boy was popping off out here as Rocket.
Yeah. Oh, new season of Marvel Rivals starts on Friday, so we'll have Deadpool in the game.
That'll be fun.
We'll definitely need to do this again with Cassie. Get Get the old band back together.
It's been a while since we had played that, so that was a lot of fun. But yeah,
for sure.
do we want to get into the storm of the century? I don't know that we you kind of hit it there in the intro a little bit, but yeah, this week we're doing storm of the century.
Right, let's do it. So kind of get started here. Storm of the Century was written for the screen by Stephen King, which makes for an interesting distinction. Obviously, a lot of Stephen King's stuff has been adapted for television or film, but this one was born as a screenplay, releasing for audiences in 1999 as a 3-part miniseries, and only later, after the conclusion of the episode's airing, was a hardcover printing of the story released, still in screenplay format. So that is an interesting sort of turning of the table. The setting for the story is a small island off the coast of Maine called Little Tall Island. And for fans of Stephen King, you may know another of his famous novels, Dolores Claiborne, which we haven't discussed on our show yet, but I'm sure it's going to get its moment here in the future, is also set on that island. So as always, I do want to give a spoiler warning going forward here. We're going to just talk about this television miniseries and just kind of lay out all the plot points and characters and what have you. So if you haven't watched it yet, check it out. It's on Disney Plus, at least as of this recording.
Yeah, it's I think it's on both Disney Plus and Hulu have done this weird conglomeration thing, but I think I ended up watching it on Hulu. As I don't have the full Disney Plus package yet as of right now. But the one thing I noticed remember about this is I think it came out in 99. And
yeah,
it was across 3 days. So you watched it back to back to back. And I believe it was on Sci-Fi back then. So
right.
It was, I remember watching this during that time period. And then the months after, because back in the day when Sci-Fi would put some original content out, boy, you better bet you were going to see it again.
Yeah, I definitely was, I remember all the advertising for all of these Stephen King TV miniseries events, because there's a bunch of them in that time. But yeah, this one I enjoyed a lot. So kind of getting into what's going on in the story here. The story opens with a grisly murder when this mysterious man, who is later, he introduces himself as Andre Linoge. He arrives at this old woman's door, and she's just sitting in her living room watching television. She's watching the local weather forecast, and that sort of informs us as the viewer that there's a major storm headed for Little Tall Island as well as the mainland. She slowly makes her way to the door. She's an old lady with a walker. And as she answers the door, he proceeds to beat her to death with his cane. He then just remains in her living room chair at the house, waiting for someone to discover the crime. What were your thoughts on kind of the opening of this story?
Cool opening. Linoge is immediately unsettling in just the way he looks in this specific cane that he has with him. The outset, we have a couple of things here in this grocery store, which also doubles as the town jail.
Right.
Which is kind of wild. You definitely get the idea of, hey, this is a very, 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 very small town. And this is treated much like a lot of Stephen King things where we're going to have a lot of characters in here. Not all of them are important. But we get a lot of characters really, really quick. At the beginning of this film.
Absolutely. Yeah. This, again, much the same as some of his other large cast stories, kind of holds some similarities to stories like Needful Things, but we're going to talk about that here in a little bit anyway, but there's different ways to approach a story where a mysterious man comes to town and bad things start happening. And this certainly is not just a rehash of Needful Things. It's something else. So
Yeah, we do get some parallels here. For those who haven't listened to Needful Things, check that out because I talked about some of that. I think that kind of spawned us back into watching this, but there are some crossovers. But the reasoning between the two antagonists in those films could be kind of debated as far as what is going on. But yeah, it does have some similarities for sure.
Absolutely. So as Linoge is sitting in the living room, a young man by the name of Davy Hopewell is the unfortunate individual who makes this discovery. He goes in because he notices her walkers out in front of the house and the door's ajar, and it just kind of throws him off. He sees something's amiss there, and so he kind of wanders in, knocking on the door as he steps in, and discovers her body. And then he steps into the living room, and Linoge never even stands up. He just starts talking to him with his back to him and telling him who he is and just freaking him out. And so he goes running out into the street, just yelling for anyone who will listen, that Mrs. Clarendon's been murdered, which is sort of the first domino to fall for all the events that are to come, which alerts the town manager, what we were just talking about, the guy that plays in The Walking Dead. What's his name?
Dale, who's just Dale. Like, he's the worst in The Walking Dead. He was also in The Mist, and it's like anytime Dale shows up as an actor,
which he's really good in this, to be fair, but his characters tend to be the most hopeless, useless, but most talkative people that just interject their opinion into situations that they're not going to have any help. This doesn't or be any help to the situation. This goes absolutely no different than any of those other things that we just mentioned as far as his character goes.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, he's kind of the first one we get. Linoge, he kind of, with Davy Hopewell, when Davy Hopewell goes in and finds the body, you get a little bit of what Linoge is capable of, which is just mentally destroying someone. He destroys Davy by being like, you're too short and you're too slow and you won't even be first string on the high school basketball team. You get the run out. And then as Robbie Beals, the town manager, he goes in and you get this long story about how terrible Robbie is as a person for sticking his mother in the nursing home and not going to see her, and how she coughed screaming his name and death, and that she'll be waiting in hell for Mr. Robbie Bills
to eat his eyes out for eternity.
Which is kind of gives you a little peek of who Linoge is and what is going to happen to some of these characters in the story.
And besides, a major reoccurring sort of sentence that we're going to be talking about that Linoge passes on through people, another thing that he says quite a few times in the story is hell is repetition. And that is an interesting sort of thought going forward with this story. So
hell is repetition and born in sin. Come on in.
Yes, exactly. So as we kind of were already discussing, the parallels with Needful Things, mysterious man arriving in a small town, using the townsfolk's secrets against them. What makes this story unique is that it's not people's prejudice or private disdain for one another that drives the horrors, but simple cowardice at the thought of anyone knowing the full depth of their sins.
Yeah, think about any person's deepest, darkest secrets, things that they don't want to talk about, things that they're not proud of. Instead, he uses that against them, not to turn people against each other. That's more of what you see in Needful Things, though there is some of that here, but more just mentally breaking that person based on things that they would rather forget in a lot of the scenarios that we're going to talk about. But yeah, he's very much, it's one of those things, like you could kind of see him being interpreted as like a demon or almost like a Norse god kind of thing. There are some parallels to like Odin, for instance, with Linoge.
Right. You could even interpret him as not that he is like drinking anyone's blood or anything, but almost like a vampire too, especially with the imagery of his teeth. Certainly not, or a sorcerer, probably more a sorcerer, but certainly some sort of being that has found a way to live long.
Yeah, he has the kind of a similar look to what you see in the latest Salem's Lot, with how they kind of do some of their vampires, which I thought was interesting during certain scenes in this movie. But Colm Fiora is the actor playing him. And he said that he studied a lot of folklore and mythology to kind of develop the character in the way that he wanted to play it, not really as much like horror villains. And it plays off with the way that he, throughout this entire thing, he never really raises his voice. It's more through like, the scariness is more through his exact certainty of what is going to happen, and the fact that this town really, there's not really a way to stop it. Unless they give him what he wants, and then he'll go away.
Exactly. So, and also, if you haven't seen it and you just look up the actor's face that we're talking about, that guy could have played Hannibal Lecter as well, to a T. He's just got that sort of like knowing look in his eyes and the grin and everything, and just he's creepy. He comes out across really creepy, which it works really well. He doesn't have to do a whole lot to, display his dominance in the scenes. So moving on with the story, our main protagonist, Mike Anderson, who's the town constable, brings Linoge in, and he wants to bring him in through the back door, as you were talking about. The jail cell is behind the local town store, but the door is jammed. And what we come to understand kind of as we're watching this is that Linoge has powers. So he's obviously controlling that door and forcing Mike to bring him around through the front. So as he has to do, he comes around the front of the building and parades him through the store. And there's a bunch of people there, because it's a really small community, maybe 500 people total on the island. And so there's a lot of those people in the store standing there just gawking, going, this is the guy that killed the old lady, and then he just starts telling them who they are and saying things about them that they'd rather not have people hear. And so that is interesting. And then Mike's wife, Molly, and his son Ralph are there because she catches wind that of what's going on, and she wants to make sure he's okay. And then Linoge picks up little Ralphie, and that's pretty much like the most terrifying thing in my mind.
Yeah, Ralph's dumbass runs over there almost directly up to him, and he just gets grabbed because Linoge is handcuffed with the handcuffs in front of him, and he just picks him up, and he's like, mentions Ralph, the character, has a birthmark across his nose, which his dad refers to as a fairy saddle to make him not feel self-conscious about it. But Linoge, obviously, with his mental powers, knows this. He knows this fact, and he uses it. And you can see Mike's face just get enraged, which kind of takes us into the next scene. But the whole townsfolk, they all know this anyways, because they're in this grocery store. They know this murder is coming. This is the other thing, because they call it in. The town manager calls it in while everyone's shopping, and the radio is just right there. So they already know a murder has really occurred, because at first they didn't believe it, because they've not had one. I think they say at some point that they've not had a murder in this town since like the 1800s or something.
It's mentioned too, where they haven't had someone die since Dolores Claiborne killed her husband. So this is like, but before that though, this is like, it doesn't happen very often on the island that something really awful like this happens. And now this man is a really, really bad thing. And he seems to know everything about everyone, and nobody knows who he is. So he eventually Mike gets him back in there, gets him in the jail cell, and then essentially just groups of men who are essentially voluntold are just taking shifts to watch the imprisoned Linoge and the majority of the town then gathers, as they were planning to do anyway, at the local church because of the storm that is just starting to mount, and kind of just allow everybody to be together. They've got a generator and food and cots set up in the basement and everything. So that's sort of where a lot of the story is going to unfold there. And throughout the first night of the storm, there's a bunch of people that die in various ways, whether it be at their own hand or at the hand of another, always leaving behind a short message, like a note or something painted on the wall, maybe in blood. Give me what I want and I'll go away, which is a mystery to us as the viewer throughout the entire story. What is it that he wants? It's Linoge, but it's like, what is it?
Yeah, so they do a great job of hiding what it is he wants. He continues to tell them, but he continues to tell them he wants something, but he has not told them what they want as of yet. This being broken into 3 parts, that's definitely to keep the viewer kind of hung on this cliffhanger, right? But Linoge, he's great in all of these scenes, just kind of mentally breaking these people down. And the generator gets immediately used pretty much as he's mentally breaking these people down. He is also controlling the raging storm outside, or so it seems, at the very least.
Right. It's interesting too, throughout this story, as things happen, it's been made clear that even though he's got, his physical self is trapped in this jail cell, that he can send out his cane, and it's sort of an extension of himself to do his bidding, sort of like impart his will on others. And so there's a number of those things that happen in various ways, people dying, and it's just like people begin to realize that this guy is making it happen, and that they're not safe no matter where they are, whether they're in the room with him or elsewhere. He's got a hold on the community. So by the conclusion of the second episode, Linoge decides that he no longer needs to pretend to be a prisoner, because he never really was. And he just breaks free of the handcuffs in the jail cell and walks out into the storm. That's sort of the conclusion of the second act. And then the following evening, kind of the opening of the third, everyone has a shared dream that makes it clear to everyone that we've come to know in the story, that whatever this guy wants, if he doesn't get it, they're going to meet their end by just walking like lemmings into the sea, leaving behind a town that's deserted, much the same as Roanoke colony from the 1500s.
Yeah, which was a cool tie-in writing-wise for those who don't know the backstory of Roanoke. It's just it was one of the original American colonies that they never found any bodies. They never knew if these people tried to sell back to England, or if they just went to a new colony, or were murdered somewhere while trying to find food, or starved to death, and they just don't know. All they ever found was like these carvings in trees that said Cryptoa, which could have been somewhere that they were trying to go, another colony, some town name, trying to leave a sign for to be found at some point, but they never were. So I always thought that was kind of a cool tie-in to this story, and gives Linoge kind of this backstory. Like he has to eat every 500 years or whatever that timeline
right.
Might be,
He was responsible for the Roanoke Village events as well, as is made clear in this story. So moving into to episode 3 here a little further, Linoge begins visiting the children via the magic cane with the wolf's head. Kind of turns into like what looks like a dog's head, and he coaxes the kids to touch it, which sends them each one at a time into a deep sleep that they can't be waked from or woken from. So
it's also really funny watching the kids fall over after touching this cane that they're petting, this magic floating cane. The stunt acting they had these children do was really I laughed really hard.
right. I mean,
Especially
this whole
the town
thing was,
owner's son, the way he falls. I rewound it and watched it like 4 times. It's hilarious. Not intentionally hilarious, but it is pretty funny looking.
right. And they all see the cane, the kids do, but everyone else, the other grown-ups in the room, are watching these kids walk up and touch nothing. They're just touching air, and then they're just falling over. And I mean, yes, this presentation certainly is a product of its time. The special effects are dated, but I still feel like it has a good effect, even watching it 27 years later now.
It's kind of, it looks cool too. The wolf changing into the dog head, this cute little puppy dog head, silver puppy dog head, as opposed to the wolf, and all the kids being like, oh. But just the way they fall is pretty fun.
Absolutely. So the grown-ups fear that the children are dying, and then they quickly realize that they're just sleeping in such a way that they can't be woken up. So we see within the shared dream that the children are having that Linoge is flying hand in hand with all the children high above the clouds. Meanwhile, the Linoge in the waking world visits some of the members of the adults in another room in the building at the church, letting them know that they're going to be gathering together in the sanctuary hall for a town meeting where his mysterious demand will be made clear.
Yeah, this is very much like an evil Mary Poppins scene. Like Mary Poppins was evil. It would be kind of like what Linoge has got going on here, which I someone made that point on one of the reviews that I watched headed into this episode, which I was like, that's really funny because we don't know, is Mary Poppins a thinny? Are there good thinnies? Is Mary Poppins the good version of Linoge? Because we don't really know her backstory, right?
Exactly. I mean, you could make that connection with Pennywise as well if you wanted to, but
yeah, for sure.
I've seen people do that, but yeah. So obviously, everyone starts talking, and they all understand that what they've all been wondering is going to be brought to light. So they all gather, just like a church service. They all sit down in the pews, and they're waiting for the time. And the time comes, and the Linoge just steps in, makes his way up the middle aisle, stopping every so often and pointing and exposing several different people for their dark secrets. The one that's like just really ugly is the what is it? The priest whose church it is, and this guy's like, throughout the story is saying things. We need to just go along, and God's going to make a way for us, and so on and so forth. And this dude points out that Linoge points out that he's a pedophile. So it's just like, oh my God, it's like all these people have really dark and evil secrets that Linoge it's kind of there just to uncover and use to his own end. So he gets to the front of the crowd, lets them know that he isn't a god, and that he too is mortal, but he's living on a much longer timeline than a traditional people, and obviously with great power. He tells them that although he will outlive all of them, that his time has grown short in on the context of his entire life, and that he wishes to train his successor. This heir will be one of the town's children, but he can't make them give him a child. They must do so willingly. So he gives the gathered people some time to discuss their choice, says, I'm going to give you guys 30 minutes and I will return. So at that point in the story, everyone's talking and everyone's like, well, there's nothing we can do. And Mike is like the only voice of dissent in this story, where he's like, we have to stand up to him. He wants to take one of our children, and he's like, how can we bow to that, and everyone's just convinced based on the events of the last 2 days that they have no other choice. and it's give him a kid or everyone dies, sort of thing. So
yeah, he's definitely the hero of the story, but it's also
an ineffectual one.
Yeah, there's nothing that he can really do, which is really, really sad once we head into the end of this as we start to wrap this up. But yeah, I mean, you kind of see that, like, while Linoge is the villain that they give us, the town is actually the monster in this scene, right? Like the isolation,
the people and their secrets and how they're willing to just overlook just tremendously evil things. You know, all these things that people are doing, and some people are even aware of, and people are just willing to overlook it because it's inconvenient for them. If they could bring their own, darkness to light as well. So,
right. And you get some great, like, the characters are written in a way where you have like one that represents authority, one that represents faith, one that represents like rationalization, one that represents denial. So they're written with very specific intentions, especially headed into these discussions as they try to decide what they're going to do.
Right. And so it's like, as they're discussing, it's there's like 7 children, and so the parents of those kids are all part of this group, and they're all talking, and everyone except Mike, even Mike's wife, says, no, we have to do this as a group. It's the only way we're going to save this community is to make this impossible choice. So, anyhow, Linoge returns and everyone votes, and Mike's the only one that doesn't put his hand up. And so then one parent from each of the children steps to the front, and it's Mike's wife, because Mike's not going to do it because he doesn't agree with it, along with 6 other parents. And they stand there, and he has a bag like with these stones inside, and there are 6 white stones and 1 black stone, and each person reaches in the bag and without looking grabs a stone and fists it until it's time to show. And sort of like there's a lot of build up and suspense as each person reveals their stone, but it becomes pretty clear and fairly quickly, even as there's 2 or 3 people left, that it's going to be Molly and Mike's son, as it ends up becoming Ralph as the sacrifice for the town to continue. Linoge then says, thank you very much, picks up the sleeping Ralph, and just walks out and flies away with Ralph. So, Mike is just a broken man, and he can't accept this awful choice that his wife and the rest of the town has made. So you think, okay, that's the end of the story, but it goes on a little bit more, and it's like months later, Mike has just decided that he can't accept these things. He can't live in this town or stay married to this woman who's willing to sacrifice their child. So he divorces Molly, and he moves on and moves to the other side of the country to start a new life. And then you kind of fast forward, it's sort of like a narration. Fast forward 10 years later, and he's just walking down the street, San Francisco, just doing his daily life, and he just notices out of the corner of his eye an old man and this teenage boy walking down the street, and sees the cane, and he realizes it's Linoge and his son. And he calls out to them, and they both turn and bare their monstrous teeth at him, and that's the conclusion of the story.
Yeah, it's kind of jarring in the way that you have to just kind of accept that evil doesn't lose in this scenario. And while the town survives, it's spiritually destroyed, right? Like and then to get the ending, the 10 years later ending, you get this implication that it's happened before and it will happen again.
Right. It's that, good people are only good until they're faced with a difficult enough choice.
In the fact that the public humiliation in a lot of cases, now there were some really evil people in this town, as it turned out throughout thing, but a lot of the things that Linoge says are just kind of embarrassing things, right? Like,
Right.
in a way that I don't want him to say anything about me, kind of and grotesque. What's weird is you don't have like any big attempt for them to try to take out Linoge at any point. Not that they necessarily could, but usually you'll get that moment in Stephen King things where you'll have the town try to rally together. Like The Mist is a good example, right?
Yeah.
You don't get that in this at all.
Nope.
This little town is like, nah, dude.
What if evil just overruns everything?
And I know that he's came out and he said that this is one of his darkest moral stories, not anything close to his scariest, but one that he thinks has like this crazy moral compass too. And I would have to agree with that. It is it's definitely one that you get to the end of it and you're like, wow, hard to feel good about any of that.
Right. Part of what makes, I think, this story a great addition for the Bachman's basement is the cynicism that King has kind of written the story with. There's no really true heroes here apart from Mike. And even he's just forced to witness the town that would rather commit a monstrous act than to have their private shames dragged into the light. So it's kind of like that's the real storm. It's not this giant snowstorm that's coming. It's the moment the masks begin to come off. And Linoge didn't bring evil to Little Tall Island. He just, brought the shovel along just to uncover this.
Yeah, for sure. I'd have to agree with you. So are you ready to give this a Bachman's basement score?
Yeah, I thought about it, as I was kind of writing this out, and I thought it's really good, but I have to judge it on the presentation. So I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I thought the story was really good, but maybe I'm just being critical, but yeah, it wasn't my utmost favorite thing that King's ever done, but it's worth a watch.
Yeah, I think I'd give it like a 6.5, a 7, somewhere in there. Much like you, I think the story's really, really good. I like the tie-in with Roanoke. I like the ending just because it is just completely opposite of a lot of other Stephen King things. Like, it's evil clearly just wins in this one. Almost similar to Needful Things in a lot of ways with that. But in this, at least you get like the tie-in at the end of you get the thriller music video.
Yeah.
Didn't see Jackson's turning into a werewolf or whatever. Yeah, man, it's a fun watch. It is of its time. And it is like a sci-fi miniseries, so don't go in thinking that this is going to be like a AAA film or anything. But yeah, it's a fun watch. It's definitely one that I enjoyed when I was younger, and it has stuck with me because I have brought up Linoge on this podcast several times throughout different stories. So it was fun going back and giving it a rewatch, but I would not, it's kind of hard to give it like a higher score over like a 7, if we're being honest, especially after we just did, Stand By Me.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, if you're looking to talk to us about any of our episodes or just have something to chime in with, you can find me on Facebook, Christopher Clawson, and my Instagram, Chris_Clawson 1982. And if you want to share your socials.
Sure, yeah. It's Christopher.R.Patton on both Facebook and Instagram. You can find all of the content that Boink Studios puts out each week at www.boinkstudios.com. Our shows are all available through Spotify and YouTube, both video formats and audio formats on YouTube. So feel free to go check out. There's lots of great content out there besides just Bachman's Basement. So like if you're into wrestling or movie reviews or people talking about albums or professional sports, there's a little bit of everything there. So go check out some of the other great podcasts on the network.
Absolutely. So kind of wrapping this thing up here. The clouds are finally breaking over Little Tall Island, but the town, they reveal, will never be the same. Storm of the Century isn't just a story about a blizzard. It's a story about what we're willing to sacrifice to keep our secrets buried. It wasn't just a child that was taken, but the soul of the community. And as we climb the stairs and close the door of Bachman's basement for the week, remember Linoge's parting words. Hell is repetition. Make sure your next choice is one you can live with.